When I first committed to watching Fortnite pros for over 100 hours, I thought I had a pretty good idea of what makes them great. I assumed it was all about flashy mechanics, perfect edits, and the ability to hit every shot under pressure. And sure, all of that is true. They have those skills down to an art. But once I really dug in, studying the FNCS Globals, rewatching VODs, and analyzing the way these players handle every single situation, I realized something much deeper. Being a pro isn't just about raw skill, it's about how they obtain discipline, awareness, patience, and a set of habits that keeps them alive and dangerous in every single match. These players don't just play the game, they control it. And after 100 hours of studying, I discovered 20 specific things that every single pro does to compete at the highest level and never get caught off guard. The first thing that jumped out immediately is how obsessed pros are with information gathering. From the moment the battle bus launches, they're already scanning and studying. They watch who drops where, they keep mental notes of contested POIs, and they're constantly listening for audio cues that gives away weapon loadouts or movement. FNCS Globals, it was obvious the best trio had a complete picture of their surroundings from the very start. They didn't just know their drop spot, they knew what was happening 2 or 3 POIs away. This awareness meant that when they rotated, boxed up, or took a fight, they weren't surprised by anything. They already knew what teams would be around them. That's why they don't get blindsided the way average players do. The second thing is drop discipline. Casual players like to swap landing spots, experiment, or try to avoid action. Pros do the exact opposite. They treat their landing as a science, drilling their drops over and over until it's automatic. They actually had pictures at FNCS Globals to pinpoint where they would need to land. Their glider angles, chest routes, and material farming paths are perfectly rehearsed down to the single point. At FNCS Globals, you can see how methodical this was. Every top team hit the exact same landings every single match without hesitation, and that kind of consistency makes RNG less scary. They know what loot they're getting, they know the farming spots, and they always have a reliable setup going into the mid-game. The third thing I noticed is just how patient pros are in fights. Most casuals get one tag and immediately push, but pros slow everything down. They test edits, poke with shots, and look for guaranteed openings. In FNCS Globals, you'd watch fights drag on way longer than in public matches, because neither side wanted to make the first big mistake. When a pro finally commits, it's calculated. They don't gamble with the risk of dying. They go in when they already know the odds are in their favor, which is why their fights look so clean compared to the messy brawls you see in ranked or pubs. The fourth thing I learned is that pros never tunnel vision. In the heat of a fight, most players lock in on the enemy right in front of them and forget that Fortnite is a battle royale with hundreds of other players. That's when the third party comes and wipes them. Pros don't make that mistake, almost ever. Even while they're editing or applying pressure, they're listening for footsteps, checking storm position, and making sure they're not about to be pinched. At FNCS Globals, the difference between teams that consistently survived to endgame and those that didn't often came down to awareness. The pros weren't just fighting, they were keeping track of the entire lobby. Fifth is how pros approach pre-fight preparation. They don't take fights if they're not entirely ready for them. Before they engage, they check their mats, ammo, health, and most importantly, their positioning. If one of those isn't where it should be, they'll back off and wait. In Globals, it was common to see trios box up for multiple minutes at a time, farming mats or waiting for shields before making a move. That kind of patience is hard to master, but it's exactly why pros rarely throw games early. They fight on their terms, not just because somebody is nearby, and that's also why most tournaments are so stacked at the end. The sixth lesson is all about positioning and rotations. Every move a pro makes is intentional, no matter what. They don't rotate randomly, they rotate with a plan. If they need to save mats, they'll hug natural cover. If the storm is pulling too far, they'll move early to secure dead side. If they want to catch players rotating, they'll time their movement perfectly. Watching FNCS Globals made it clear. The teams that survive longest weren't always the best fraggers. They're the ones who always seem to be in the right place at the right time. That's not luck, it's always calculated positioning. Alright, seventh. Pros are masters at disengagement. This is something most casuals struggle with. Nobody wants to back down from a fight. It feels like losing, but pros understand that surviving is more important than an ego. Fortnite is a battle royale and a survival game at the same time. If they don't have the resources, or if another team is closing in, or if the fight really isn't worth it, they'll leave and reset. During Globals, I saw countless teams disengage mid-fight and later reappear in top 5 finishes. That's the difference, knowing when not to fight is a skill, and it's one most players ignore. The eighth thing I learned is just how efficient pros are with their mats. Casual players often overbuild or waste resources, but pros never place a wall or ramp without a reason once again. Every piece they use is calculated to protect, to pressure, or to reposition. This efficiency is what allows them to carry more materials into moving zones. At FNCS Globals, the winning teams weren't always the ones with the most eliminations, they were the ones who had mats left in endgame when everyone else was dry. Ninth is the way pros always play the long game. They're not just thinking about the fight in front of them, they're thinking about how this fight affects their chances in endgame. That's why they farm every chance they get, take storm surge tags early, and rotate in ways that preserve health and materials. When I studied the top trios, it was clear they weren't chasing anything too flashy, they were chasing consistency, and that comes from making decisions that can set you up for success 5 or 10 minutes later. And it's also why you saw a lot of people using those weird surge bases to get all those extra tags, so they didn't have to worry about it in endgame and they could just play their endgame out. Alright, the 10th lesson, pros stay calm under pressure. This is probably the hardest to copy. I've made multiple videos on it, but it is definitely crucial. In FNCS Globals, stacked endgames looked like complete chaos. Builds breaking everywhere, storm closing in, and dozens of players crammed into the tiniest of zones. But the pros didn't panic, or at least most of them. They executed their rotations, took smart shots, and trusted their comms of their teammates. Staying calm in those moments is what allows them to clutch up games instead of falling apart. And before I continue with the next 10 lessons, I want to quickly mention something that can help you improve way faster, Risen's Tweaks. If you don't know what it is, it's basically the best performance optimization tool for Fortnite and any other game. It boosts FPS, lower input delay, and makes your game feel smoother overall. I use it myself, and it's honestly insane how much difference it makes once you try it. And since they're sponsoring this video, you can get 15% off by using code FLOW at checkout. If you're serious about improving and want your setup to feel like a pro's, check out the link in the description and grab Risen's Tweaks with code FLOW before you jump into your next session. Now let's get back into it, because the next 10 lessons are where things really start to show why pros are so untouchable. The 11th thing pros do is use audio to its fullest potential. Every small sound cue matters. Footsteps, reloads, heals, and even the sound of a material being farmed. In Globals, I saw players react instantly to a single sound, predicting enemy moves before they even happened, and casual players often ignore audio or let music drown it out. But pros treat it like a radar system. In any high-level game, you will see pros abusing audio. Alright, 12th. Pros practice resources trading in fights. They don't just spray randomly, they know when it's worth spending a few AR bullets to force a wall, and when to burn mats for safety, and when to hold back. Fights at the top level are like an economy. Trading resources efficiently determines who survives longer. That's why you rarely see a pro waste time or ammo without getting value back. 13th is their ability to predict storm pulls. No, they don't have hacks, it's just a lot of experience. After thousands of games, they can read the map and guess where the storm will likely move. That allows them to rotate early, claim strong positions, and avoid panic. Watching Globals is crazy how often the top teams already had control of high ground or a key rotation path before the circle even revealed itself. 14th. Pros thrive on team communication. At Globals, you could hear the difference between average trios and the elite ones. The best teams had non-stop, calm, and focused comms, calling out tags, mats, rotations, and threats constantly. Communication isn't just background noise, it's the lifeline of a pro team, and it's the only reason why Queasy's team won. 15th is the way pros minimize randomness. Casuals often gamble on risky plays, but pros don't leave things to chance. They farm extra mats, carry utility items, and rotate in ways that limit third-party risk. They create consistency by removing as much RNG as possible. 16th. Pros have incredible edit discipline. They don't spam edits for no reason. Every edit they make is safe, protected, and calculated to bait or punish opponents. In Globals, you rarely see a pro open themselves up. They always control the fight with clean, purposeful edits. 17th. Pros excel at timing aggression. They don't play passive all game, but they don't waste energy early either. They strike at the exact right moments, when a team is weak, when storm pressure forces mistakes, or when high ground is available. This timing is why their pushes succeed while others fail. 18th is adaptability. Fortnite changes constantly, and pros adjust instantly. New weapons, new metas, new rotations. They master them faster than anyone. Globals prove that even with shifting loop pools and mechanics and even changes to the map, the best players adapted immediately and stayed on top, except for Peterbot. 19th, pros are masters at mental resilience. They don't tilt after one bad game, and we saw a lot of bad games in FNCS. They reset instantly and focus on the next. In a tournament like FNCS Globals, one mistake can ruin your entire momentum for the entire tournament, but the top players stay locked in across 6, 12, or even more matches. That mental toughness is just as important as mechanics. And finally, the 20th lesson. Pros treat every detail as an advantage. From keybinds to warm-ups to sleep schedules, they optimize everything. They don't leave a single thing out. Nothing is random in their approach. That's why they feel untouchable. They prepare in ways most players don't even think about it. So after 100 hours of studying Fortnite pros, these 20 lessons stood out as the keys to why they're so consistent, so dangerous, and so impossible to surprise. Once again, it's not just about flashy edits or their crazy aim that they all have. It's about their awareness, patience, and positioning, and discipline. And the best part is anyone can start applying these lessons today. You might not be a pro yet, but if you start thinking like one, your improvement will skyrocket instantly. So if you learned something from this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below what role you play in Fortnite. Are you the fragger, the IGL, or the support? And don't forget, if you wanted your game to feel smoother than ever, grab Risen's Tweaks using code FLOW for 15% off. The link's in the description. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day to watch my video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.